Hey guys, what's going on? Sincere here with whoissincere.com. I want to bring you an article that I just think is, this is just tremendous. I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot of rhetoric right now that's actually not rhetoric, but a lot of talk in Washington about how Donald Trump is not actually a conservative, and that's why he was going to run independent in the first place. And on top of that, that's why the majority of his contributions over the last 3 or 4 decades has been for the Democratic Party. So, with that being said, Ted Cruz is honing in on that and really, pulling out ads and everything, in key states against Donald Trump. And I believe those ads are probably effective because a lot of people feel the same way. The man's not a conservative by any kind of means. I've been saying this for a long time. He is the most liberal conservative ever, in the history of conservatives. So, it's all an illusion. It's all a facade. It's all a game to win numbers. He's come into the Republican base, and he's done just that. He's gained all of the numbers. So, you're dealing with the man who's operating off of deception. His major premise is deception. If we look at what just actually happened, before I actually get into this, there was 3 major nominations, people speaking on behalf of Donald Trump and, his run here for presidency. That was Sarah Palin, Louis Farrakhan, and Alex Jones. Now, those names may not seem significant. Sarah Palin, we all know how the country feels about her. And just the kind of the way you just look at an SNL skit and you'll figure it out from there. Louis Farrakhan, one of the number 2 black man probably in the United States besides Barack Obama. The number 1 leader of the Muslim community in the United States. And then you have Alex Jones. Alex Jones, his fan base is already the type of fan base that Trump followers are. And I like how one viewer actually put on Alex Jones' channel. He says, it's funny, you wait for Paul to fall into the distance before you come out to start endorsing Trump. So, guys, this is all set up. This is all a strategy, a scheme. This is all about control. And, those at the top, they have control. If you're listening to this video, it's very likely that you don't have the control. It's very likely, that we'll be in this position tomorrow as well because not enough people are willing to wake up to say, hey, wait a second, something is wrong. And we can fix this. It really starts with fixing it with the states. It starts in our, our own homes and our own communities. But if we want to fix the federal government, it starts with the states. The states have to start reclaiming their powers. I mean, it is the state's duty to check the federal government when the federal government is overreaching and doing things wrong. That's the state's job. That's why we elect our representatives to speak on behalf of us and to nullify any kind of overreaching powers. And there's only a few states that actually utilize the tools necessary to do that. And literally, only a handful. So, let's talk about this battle for the West. The federal government is taking all of the land. We know that they're taking all of the land. They're not making any kind of secret about it. I'll be uploading a video later showing you inside a BLM meeting how they're actually laughing about how much land they've acquired and how much land the ranchers still have left, while they have hundreds of thousands of acres in that one particular location. The rancher there had about 5 acres, 5.96 acres, I believe it was. And it was just a very funny thing to the room. And, they're going to take that too. So, the federal government does not need to own any land. It was written that our federal government shouldn't own any land. I forget what it was. I believe it was in the Constitution, but I forget exactly what section it is. I believe Article 1, Section 8 or something like that. But I'll leave a link below in the video for it so you guys can read it yourself. But, our federal government should not be, acquiring the land. And in acquiring this land, what they're actually doing in case like Hillary Clinton in Oregon, is they're selling the rights of those lands to foreign interests, to foreign companies, such as the number 2 company for mining uranium out of Russia. And then there's, that's only one example, but there's other examples where, the Chinese have, bought up quite a significant amount of land or the rights to the land and for their mining operations, all through these organizations that are like the BLM. So the BLM is not a federal organization. It is a private company. I mean, this is what we're looking at, guys. We're looking at the corporate world starting to take over the political world here in the United States. And this is including our land, our water, and our air. It's a complete corporate takeover. So this is what I speak of all the time, why everybody is worried about, racism and detention, dealing with all of that. There's a whole segment, a whole fight that's not being fought because it's not being fought at the same time, and that's classism. Classism is being practiced by the elite much more than racism is. They're happy that we're fighting about racism, while they themselves are, implementing classism on us. And they're giving us these standards that are false standards and literally ripping apart our Constitution in our faces, but we're worried about whether our neighbor is black or white, or whether they're Muslim or Christian. There's a problem in our country, okay? And people like Donald Trump, they only add to that problem. Donald Trump, don't hand federal lands to states. Very twisted argument that he's giving, pretty much saying, hey, listen, we should federalize these lands. It's okay to federalize these lands, and the states should not have rights to these lands. That is in direct violation of how the Constitution was actually written. And no, we should not in any situation concede to the fact that the federal government wants to overstep their boundaries and, and claim land, unrightfully claim land that's not theirs. So I'm going to leave some links below. There's actually a great pastor out there. I believe his name is David Whitney. And he speaks about this, and he speaks about this very much in depth. And I believe he's out of the Institute of the Constitution or something like that. Video I was watching, but very, very in depth as far as how, these states actually came to be. And, according to how these states actually came to be, the federal government, they know that this is not something where, we have to worry about, does the federal government know their boundaries? No, they absolutely know their boundaries, and they're absolutely breaking the law intentionally. And our representatives, out of their ignorance, they don't understand, the parameters that have been set forth as far as the federal government dealing with, states matters. They don't understand those parameters enough to be able to stand up for us, to be able to fight for us. So I'll leave a link below to Pastor David Whitney's his couple speeches that he has about that, and I believe you guys will get a lot of good information about that. But what I want to focus in on here is Donald Trump doesn't get it. He simply doesn't get it. This was actually just posted yesterday by CBS News. And by him not getting it, my whole point is this. He's going to lose a very, very large part of his vote. A very large part of his vote, because there's not going to be, let's just take it back to the Alex Jones segment of folks. A lot of those people, you could say, you can find the prepper minded people in there, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a great quality. You can also find the bottom bases of America in the Alex Jones fan base, meaning you have a lot of people with extremist views. You have a lot of people with extremist racial views, extremist economic views, and a lot of these extreme ideas. And normally there's not anything wrong with having extreme ideas. Just to be honest with you, an idea is an idea. but it's only when it's enacted. It's a problem. And when that ideology is actually, it's actually placed onto other people, then it's a problem. So that's what you have in that group of people there. Now you have Trump coming along, and Trump shares some of these people within his fan base. So now you have Trump coming along saying, "Don't hand federal lands to states." Well, what he's pretty much saying is the federal government should have eminent domain over all of these, places where there's land. And we know from Trump's past that he is a supporter of eminent domain. Unapologetically, he's a supporter of eminent domain. So it's something that, it does not resonate well with the person that's the prepper. When you tell that person that they can't move to the woods and live off of the land and live a free life without dealing with taxation and all of these other, crazy rules and regulations and grazing rights and all this stuff. When you tell a person that and that, that land that they live on and that they provide their crops on for their family, that's federal land, that changes the whole topic. And there's not a lot of people that are going to fly with that. And I'm glad he said it, because I want him to keep showing and exposing exactly who he is. He's nothing more than another politician. He's funded them for so long, he doesn't know how to be anything but them. So, where you place your money at is the things you believe in. And he placed his money for so many decades and the things that he believed in. He'll tell you that they did this, they did that, but he funded it. He funded it time and time and time and time and time and time again. He didn't stop. He never stopped. He said, I'm not going to give any more money to these politicians until they figure out what's going on. He didn't stand up, before time and say, hey, we have to figure this out now, and this is what I'm going to do to help the cause. He never did that. He was never a champion for anyone else's cause but his own. So if you look at him as some kind of savior, or Trump's going to make America great again, or you can't stump the Trump, well, what has he done for you? What has he done for any family besides provide a job into the places that serve the class of people that he caters to? If you haven't been one of those people that have a servant-based job towards the class of people that he caters to, what has he done for you? What has he done for any community? What has he done for any church organization? How has he put his heart and his time and his effort into his fellow American man and all of his years of great wealth and the many blessings that this beautiful country can afford you? How has he given any of that back in a considerable way that would make you just be in awe and say, hey, wait a second, that this is really a good guy. Wait, we have to pump our brakes here for a second. Okay? Unless you can answer those questions, then you have a duty to start digging and to start figuring out, is this guy really the right choice for presidency? Is he somebody worth giving my time to? In my opinion, I would tell you absolutely not. All the red flags are there. And if the only good flags that I can find are promises, but I can't take promises from a man that has never kept a promise a day in his life. It's another blind politician's promise. Now, speaking of politicians, there's another one, Bernie Sanders. A socialist. In this current government that we have, Bernie Sanders would be the best choice because we already have a socialist-styled government. So he would be able to actually fix that. And I don't know if that's going to, how do I say it? He's going to fix a few things, but I don't know if that's going to fix the larger problems that we're facing. Now, The few things that Bernie does fix are going to be equality, as regarding economic equality, and maybe a few other little things like health care. Healthcare is not really as hard as they're making it out to be to fix. We can really do that tomorrow. So he'll probably, fix that too. Now, the income equality and actually creating jobs, that's the harder part. Because, essentially you have to create a new economy for that. But, he's coming at a right time where it's time to create a new economy, where Barack Obama failed to capitalize on the best way to move forward with clean energy. We're behind, we're behind the ball with that, when there's a lot of other countries that are light years ahead of us now, because we haven't capitalized on it within the last 8 years. So there's plenty of room to make create new opportunities with the new, carbon-free economy that they're actually putting together. Now, the reason I worry about Bernie is because he doesn't reject ideas like the carbon tax and the TPP. So I'm on the fence with that. Well, I'm not really on the fence. I reject those ideas because there's so many things here at home that we haven't taken care of, and now we're offsetting our personal interests as a country, our sovereign interests, to foreign nations, that they can even sue us if we don't, keep up with this foreign code. Big problems, real big problems. Trump stands for some of these same things too, so that's why I say any of the billionaire or political class, it's really hard to say that they're going to do a good job, because if they don't get it, then they don't get it. And I see so many of them just don't get it anymore. And in the case of Trump, though, this is a classic example of someone being controlled and manipulated. Just think about this for a second. And I'm sorry earlier, too, about the phone call that I had to pause there real quick. But just think about this for a second. There's a billionaire that's out there, or there's a group of billionaires, okay? Let's just say there's about 20 of them. And they're at all different levels. And, they've been, behind the scenes planning, maneuvering, investing. They are the shadow government, if you will, or the face of the new shadow government. All right, so but only behind them is bankers. Now, and they're all talking with each other. So as they're sitting down at the round table and they're talking with each other, they're saying, okay, how is this world going to move forward? And as they're, asking that question, of course, they're going to come up with some great answers. One of the best answers, and one of the things that they go over quite often, is how not to lose control. Who they're going to put in places of power and position so that their control isn't relinquished, and so that there isn't instability in their operations and their plan. Okay? So when they sat down at the table and talked about the presidential candidates that were going to be coming up for this election, who better to pick and to set your eyes on than Donald Trump, and to say, hey, listen, brother, we need you. We need you to go ahead and run for president as a special interest group that cares about American values, and that you're just sick and tired of all the things happening in America. And the American people love that. They eat it up. We need you to do this. We'll take care of you later for it. Donald Trump is a low man on the totem pole. Of course he's going to say yes to this amazing opportunity, because he's not going to lose it either way, whether he gets to be president or not. It doesn't matter. He's just fulfilling an obligation to do something to help his brothers out. Now, if you don't believe this, all you have to do is start looking at all these little clubs and these organizations that these guys are in, and how they're really friends behind the scenes. They talk about each other on the big stage and say bad things about each other. That's all a show for you and I. It's all entertainment for you and I. That all brings in the advertising dollars. It keeps the American people talking about something. But it never keeps them talking about the real issues at hand. So around that table of billionaires, now they're sitting around and they're saying, okay, well, we have this going on right here. Donald Trump is causing enough of a distraction. Let's go ahead and have a global citizens festival in New York City with 60,000 people and say what our goals are going to be for the future, basically coming down from the United Nations. And you know how many millions of Americans watched that? Nobody. Everyone missed it. Why? Because the distraction. The Pope was in town and Trump was on everybody's mind. Okay? The distractions are at play so that the real shadow government, the real people that are really controlling the strings, they can keep getting away with their crimes, and they're doing so. They're taking their next steps. They're doing them in broad daylight. 60,000 people in the middle of New York City for a global citizens festival to adhere to goals from the World Bank is something that should have made our national news. And every educator, every politician, everyone should have been talking about this. Joe Biden was there. Bill and Melinda Gates were there. Half of Hollywood was there. All kinds of artists. Beyonce was there. Coldplay. You name it, the artist was there. So you mean to tell me you can get together over 100 famous heads of states, entertainers, politicians, and even our vice president and his wife to all get on one stage and to address 60,000 people in New York City with the goals and the resolutions set out by the World Bank and the United Nations, with the $400 billion commitment from Citigroup, and no one's talking about it? No one. Not a single politician, not a single news outlet. And this is what I'm trying to explain to you guys. All of this is just a ruse. I mean, you're being fooled. You're being completely misled. And you think that the politics lie within the actions of the politicians. No, they don't. It lies in the choices of tomorrow and the choices that have already been made. Not with these guys that are possibly going to make it and possibly, not. Right now, we could focus on changing the things that are happening. But because we're worried about the future and we're worried about, is he cool enough? Is he politically correct enough? Is he strong enough? We're missing what all of the technocrats are now doing with the big bankers. They're buying out all our land. They're buying our resources. They're creating new energy for tomorrow that they're going to tax on us. And we're all powerless to stop them because no one's paying attention to what they're doing. Even the big pharmaceutical companies are making major changes that no one is paying attention to. For instance, Joe Jimenez from Novartis. He just made a $30 billion cancer swap some months ago. I commented on it and actually did a video on it in a report, and still no one is talking about it. We're on the horizon of some pretty sick things that are going on in our land and that will hit us within the next 5, 10, and 15 years. And yet we sit at gridlock complaining about racism. Guys, we have to do better. There's so many of us out here that love one another and that care about one another. We really need to do better in the area of figuring out how to love and care about your neighbor. If you see them in need, help them. It's everybody's rights matter. Everybody has a God-given right in this land that we're walking on, to have food, to have water, and to have shelter. It's a God-given right here. And that's how we should be treating our neighbors. If we can't treat our neighbors like that, maybe we don't ourselves deserve to be treated that way. And that's what I'm saying. I'm seeing we're starting to get the things that we deserve. Now, people will say, oh, well, don't be a sympathizer with those that would use that kind of rhetoric. And I would say, no, it's not being a sympathizer with those that would use that kind of rhetoric. It's using godly wisdom. And we seem to have forgotten that using godly wisdom is okay. Using godly wisdom has secured most of our freedoms until this point. Now God is being kicked out and government is taking over. And government doesn't care about any one particular God. Government says, hey, we are the final word. You will listen to us. We don't care what God you want to talk about or want to preach about, whatever. As long as it's in accordance with whatever we say is the final word, then that's fine. Come on, guys. There's fascist countries that have done this before. There are fascist regimes that have done this before. We have to start thinking for ourselves. We have to start collaborating with one another and taking back our power and electing state officials and delegates that would say, okay, wait a second. Let me read over this document that, that helped to create my state and see what provisions that I have in this document that would enable me to say, hey, I control my state and not the federal government. We need to step back into that again. We can't allow people like Donald Trump to get into office and say, hey, states, you have no rights to these lands. These are all federal lands. And there's only a couple states that have bucked up to this, to the BLM and groups like that. We can't let them take the land and the water and everything that comes with it. If they take those things, then we have nothing. They're giving us fake money. If they take our land, water, and air, then what do you really have left? You have nothing left. So, on the last front of America, maybe we should keep our land. And maybe Donald should learn a little bit more about why keeping our land is valuable, why the American citizen feels a strong connection with land ownership. Not home ownership, land ownership. Okay? Anybody that has any kind of, strong yearning to own anything solid, they want to own land. Okay? So, I think Donald lost a tremendous amount of people with his stance on federalizing states' land. And I don't believe those people will ever come back to actually vote for Donald because they really see him for what he is. He's nothing more than another troll of the elite, another shill of the elite, whatever you want to call him. But at the end of the day, he's not going to be any decision maker. He's not going to be any policy changer. Okay, he's going to come in, bully, and pretty much cause a lot of division. A lot of things won't get done. And the things that do get done will probably be illegal in nature. That's what we're looking at. Do I think he's going to be elected? More than likely. Do I want him to be elected? Absolutely not. I'd rather go with the socialist. I'm just going to be honest with you because I know at least that we can talk to him. We can get some kind of understanding out of him. We can maybe get him to do some kind of work on our behalf. It's about getting somebody in there that'll listen to you. Maybe they don't have all the right ideas right now, but they'll listen to you. So I believe that we need to give Bernie Sanders a try because if he's willing to listen to us, then he's willing to change some of these things that are wrong. And Donald's not even willing to listen to us. He hasn't once said that he's just listening to what all the voters want and collectively taking that in and then addressing each group. There's a lot of groups in the United States. Why leave one whole segment of population of people out if you're running for presidency? That's not even being transparent as a person. So, ignoring and leaving out groups of people, that's never going to cut it for a real president of the United States. If you guys want equality, if you want a good functioning economy, then you don't pick somebody that's always catered to the interests of those who have wished to destroy us. You don't pick somebody who will only eat dinner with those people. You don't pick somebody who is so in bed with them that his companies, they give perks and benefits to these same very parties that he's talking about. Okay? This isn't a game, guys, but they're playing you like it's a game. And you need to understand what you're up against. This is a tremendous amount of evil. This is a tremendous amount of evil. Whether these people even know the amount of evil they're walking in or not is subject to conversation. But it still doesn't stop the actions from being what they are. It's a tremendous amount of evil. It's intolerable. And you should look at it and say, I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to take this for my life and take these things that these people say is fact. Law does not require, an unjust law doesn't require to be fact in your heart. Use godly wisdom when you're making these decisions. If your representatives that are in your state governments and in your local governments and in your federal government, if they can't make godly decisions based on our Constitution, godly decisions based on our Constitution, then it is your duty to not follow those unjust laws. And that's what we see happening in Oregon right now. They're not following the unjust laws. They realize that the federal government has completely stepped outside of their boundaries. They're taking over land where they shouldn't be taking over land. They are penalizing people on the land that they shouldn't have taken in the first place, and people are going to jail because of it. People's lives are being affected because of it. People are not producing as much because of it. And then they lock these people into debt obligations. These debt obligations are not creating a better America. But it's just the way to bankrupt and to control the rancher. Donald Trump would do really well if he went down on the ground and he talked to some of those folks and really listened to what they have to say. If he sat down and he really, talked to a couple of professors that understand how the United States was born, or even talked to the pastor. Let me see if I can pull him up here. The pastor, I believe his name was David Whitney. No, that's not him. Let me see here. David. Maybe I don't have it up here anymore, but when you, actually here it is. David Whitney. So I'll make sure I share that link actually to that so you guys can check that out. But, there's people that really understand how this thing works. They understand where this is all going. There's people out there that are like that. They really get it. And for Donald Trump and his team not to utilize some of those people that are out there to at least make what they're doing a little bit more believable is just foolish to me. It's just foolish. I mean, even if Trump brings a guy on his team like David Whitney, it makes Trump look that much better. Okay? So, it's not like these people don't have the opportunity to even do better at deceiving you than what they are. They do have the opportunity, but they're so stupid that they don't, think that you're going to catch on anyway. So that they can keep getting along with each other, laughing at you and I as we argue about dumb issues. And some of them aren't dumb like the killing of unarmed black men in America. That's not a dumb issue at all. But other issues that are, petty, we're arguing about the wrong things when we should be combining, our arguments together and voicing them to our state representatives, who in turn can voice them to the federal government and really bring about real change. So my whole thing is, how long is this going to continue? How long are we going to keep ignoring the fact that we can change situations, but it's going to start with us and not them? It's going to start with us doing and not asking. We don't have to ask anything of the federal government, and I think we've placed ourselves in a position where we've deemed ourselves in control of the federal government. We look at our federal government almost like a dictatorship, and that's not a power that we should even consider allowing for them. It's not even a funny part of a conversation. We should reject any notion of the federal government having that kind of power or stance over our lives. We should reject any kind of law that would go into place that would support, the stripping away of the Constitution within any state boundaries. So these are things that we should focus on, guys. I talked a lot longer than what I wanted to, but I wanted to really key in on a few things and just give you a brief, Trump conversation. We haven't talked about him in a while and what's going on, but those 3 endorsements that he just got are huge endorsements. Sarah Palin, Louis Farrakhan, and the dark horse vote of it all is Alex Jones. That is it's a very powerful combination between Jones and Trump. A very powerful combination on the mind and the human spirit. So I expect to see a lot more of the extremist mentality people following Trump, and for the rhetoric to get worse surrounding him. But I just say pray for our nation, guys. Pray for our country. We're headed into some dark times, and at this time, it's pretty much inevitable. It's inevitable because we don't have enough people to stand up, enough Christian folks to stand up and say, hey, our country was actually based on these values. Do we have sins? Yes, we have sins, but those sins were enacted by evil men that did not uphold, those moral values that we were based on. So based on the moral values of what God would want for us, the one true God, we should not be engaging in a lot of the activities that we're engaging in now. And we're not going to stop those things because we believe that law is overruling what God wants for us. We're in trouble. We are in trouble, so there's no way of reversing this. The Bible speaks of this. There will be a great downfall, and it's going to be America. Every sign points to it. All the analysts point to it. Anybody that's in the know, they know that America is dying. Get yourselves prepared, guys. As Paul Bailey would say, are you saved? So I don't want to turn religious on you guys, but this is really all this boils down to is good and evil. And the evil side has managed to make you think that it's not a battle about that. God doesn't really exist. And hey, you know what? Meditate and believe in yourself, and you'll be fine. Our forefathers weren't so arrogant or ignorant. Our forefathers had a little bit of a better basis of understanding the relationship with God and how that, how that compares to actually running a country. We have certain rights and freedoms because of our relationship with God and the rights that God has given us. And there's a general question that you should ask anybody that's running for government. What is your purpose of running for government? What is the purpose of government? There's only one answer. To protect the unalienable rights that God has given us and granted us. To protect your God-given rights. That is the only purpose of the government. To protect your rights. Your God-given rights. Anything outside of that, those boundaries, the federal government has no business being in the business of that. So that's my take on the current situation and what's going on with Donald Trump, what's going on with the federal land grab that's happening out in Oregon. We've been covering all of it, guys, dealing with the federal land grab down there in Oregon in Burns, the city of Burns, the Harney County. And we've had on Brandon Curtis. He's the president of the Idaho 3 Percenters. They're providing the buffer support for the folks that are at the refuge there, at the wildlife refuge. They're doing a great job protecting the occupiers of that refuge. And he's come on and broke some great, tremendous information with us, and we thank him for that. So, I'm sure that, guys like him and the guys up there at the refuge, I'm sure that they're looking at Donald Trump right now like, what is this idiot thinking? Okay, what is this idiot thinking? We're not out here for our health. We're out here trying to save America. We're out here trying to make America great again. and Donald Trump is on stage saying that you guys shouldn't have that land. That should belong to the federal government. So, guys, if you want to, catch my radio show, the All Rights Matter show, that's on Wednesdays from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock on Anon Radio Live. You can go to the description section below this video and actually download my app. It's going to lead you, instruction video, leads you step by step on how to download the app and how to secure your phone after you download the app. You go ahead and just follow the instructions of that, and you'll get an update every time that we go live, so that you won't miss out on any of this, and you'll have the information well before anyone else. So, I like to stay on the cutting edge. I have a few people that I work with, and we're building a team, guys, and we want you to come join us and be a part of the family. So we're going for truth. We're going for justice. We're going for loyalty. We're going for love. We're going for liberty. We need to get so many things right, and we have to do it now. But there's no time that's better than the present. All I can say is let's start, stop paying attention to the BS going on in Washington. They're only there to trick us. That's all they're there for. When you hear a man say, he's reading from 2 Corinthians, immediately know that that man's not a conservative. He didn't say 2 Corinthians, he said 2 Corinthians. And misquoted. So, I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of the rhetoric. I'm tired of, the brainwashing that's happening to American people. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to really take our country back. But it's time for us to do it. Us, Americans. Real Americans. Real Americans that don't have the ability to avoid paying taxes. Real Americans. Not the billionaires, not the millionaires, but real Americans. Everyday working hard Americans. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Like I said, download the app below, and there you'll get all the information that you need from my app about the show, about my website, about everything. It's all in the app, guys. Download it, get it on your phone immediately, and we'll make sure we get you updates when we go live on Anon Radio Live. Thanks a lot for listening, and as always, guys, stay alert, stay alive.